But my name is Dr. Jessica Syed. I am the Senior Assistant Director of Admissions here at Rowan University, and I wanted to thank you all so much for joining us this afternoon. I know for some of you, you may just be waking up and logging onto your computers and joining us. Others of you may have been doing schoolwork all day and taking a nice break right now, and I'm happy to welcome you to our session about our Academic Success Center here at campus. So as we get started, I'm recognizing a few familiar names on our attendee list, so thank you for those of you who have participated in other virtual events and are joining us again today. It's great to see you guys again. And for anyone new who's logging on for the first time, it's really great to meet you. So for anyone new, you may be feeling like you're kind of alone on here, but we can't see you, we can't hear you, but we know that you can see and hear us. So for you to be able to communicate, if you look on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, you'll see a Q&A button. So that's where you can write questions in, and we've dedicated a lot of time in this presentation to making sure that we're answering your questions. So please make sure that you're asking anything that you want to know. Nothing's off limits. You guys have a great lineup of presenters here today. So any questions, again, that you guys can write in, we'll be answering throughout this session. So right now, if everyone wants to practice using that Q&A feature, if you could tell us a little bit about yourself. So if you're still in high school, let us know what high school you're at. If you're a transfer student, let us know where you're currently going to school. Let us know if you're an accepted incoming student for the fall Rowan class of 2024. Let us know so we can congratulate you. And I always try to do something fun at the beginning of these sessions. Those of you who have participated in other ones know I'm always looking for a good recipe or a good Netflix show. But let's today, tell me about the workout that you guys have done. I know a lot of people are trying some new home workouts. Everyone's gyms are closed and everyone's trying to improvise. So I've seen some funny stuff online of people trying to work out at home and their resistance bands snapping on them over their door frames. And tell us any workout horror stories. I actually just got a spin bike in the mail. Thank you, Amazon, the other day. So I've been using the Peloton app. It's not a real Peloton bike, but it's my bootleg version of Peloton because it's expensive. But that's been really fun, keeping me busy outside of working. So let's see who we have. We have Justin from Eastern. You committed to Rowan. Awesome. We'll see you on campus this fall. Very cool. We have Marina, who is a junior at Garnet Valley in Pennsylvania. Excellent. Out of state. Whoop, whoop. And loves doing yoga. Very cool. I'm trying to get into yoga. I was doing a little 30-day yoga with Adrian on YouTube. It was free. I made it to day 10, and I gave up after that. We have Joshua. Joshua, I recognize you. Good to see you again. Another accepted student recently did a full body dumbbell workout. Very nice. I'll have to look that one up on YouTube. And Nick, good to see you again. Nick has been teaching himself how to do a handstand. So I'm expecting you guys to be in really good shape when we see you on campus this fall. And Nick, I want to see that and when we get to meet in person. We have our Reyes went for a walk around the block today, almost got run over by a bike. You guys got to be careful out there. I know Reyes is a sophomore in high school. And Tyler, hi Tyler, good to see you, senior at Kingsway, go Dragons. And excited to be part of Rowan's class of 2024. Excellent. So we got some incoming students, accepted students. So it's really nice to meet all of you. Douglas, 11th grade from Watchung Hills, good stuff. All right, so feel free to keep introducing yourself throughout the session. And again, really use this time to ask us any questions that you have. Nothing's off limits, and we're really happy to provide you the information that you guys are looking for. So at this point, I will turn it over to John Woodruff, who is our director of our Academic Success Center, to get us started.
Thank you very much, Jessica. And I would also like to welcome everyone, any students that accepted to Rowan, any high school students, parents. So we appreciate the opportunity. The Academic Success Center, we're a department within the Student Affairs Division of Rowan University, and we're the initial point of contact for students with disabilities, students that are in the military dependents. As you can see with the next slide, it lets you know the different the different areas that are in our suite. So military services, disability, we provide academic coaching, testing, and tutoring. We're good. Next slide. So military services, all colleges and universities have a military services office that works with any student that has been in the military. Like even if they're in the National Guard, and Rowan's office has grown with the number of students we're working with. We also work with any student that's a dependent of a veteran too. So there are some resources there listed, and We also have a veteran student organization that's very active on campus as well. Disability Resources, that's the area that Lee and I oversee. Also, all schools, universities have a Disability Resources office. We're the office that works with any student that needs accommodations that will be attending college. We currently have over 2,400 students with disabilities registered with our office. I've been with Rowan 12 years, and I joked that Rowan's grown. Like when I started here, I think we had 475 students with the disability registered with the office. Rowan has, over the years, we've got 2 medical schools. We have a dinosaur park now, whatever. So it's great news that students with disabilities are registering with us. So these are the different types of accommodations that a student would be eligible for. Many students have classroom accommodations and have had those accommodations when they were in high school. So most of those accommodations, they do carry over. Lee and I meet with individuals. We can do meetings with students, parents on the Zoom or WebEx to review anyone's documentation, answer questions. Also, students in college, they might need accommodations with housing, whether it's air conditioning, their own room. Some students with type 1 diabetes, other medical conditions have unique needs. So students that need meal plan accommodations. So we use the phrase regularly that we meet students where they are. So again, the key is to reach out early if you have a disability, need accommodations when you're looking at schools. Even on the admissions tours, we let students' parents know that if you're making plans to visit a college campus, whether it's Rowan, anywhere, always reach out to the Disability Resources office if you have questions, have needs. We also work with students that might need temporary accommodations too. So like if you have like an accident, a concussion, whatever it is, operation, while you're on the mend, that student would be eligible for temporary accommodations. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Lee Plen.
Hi, I'm Lee Plen. I'm the Assistant Director for Disability Resources. As we said before, John and I meet with students and parents all the time, and it's a little challenging right now, and there's some unknowns, but whether we're in person or whether we're on the phone with you, whether we meet via video, reach out to us, please. And at the end of this presentation, we're going to have our contact information. We'll be up on a slide, and we'll make sure that that's forwarded to you as well. A couple of things that we have at the Academic Success Center are open to everyone. So it's pretty important to kind of point this out. We have an academic coaching program. It's also called the Success Coaching Program. And what an academic coach is, very much in the sense of any coach, it's someone that meets with students once a week at a set time. So essentially, if you set it up that every Thursday at 3:30 you come to meet with your academic coach, that's going to be a grad student or that's going to be an upperclassman that's trained to work with you to help you organize things. A coach isn't a tutor, but a coach is somebody that will work with you one-on-one every week to make sure that you're organized, to make sure that you have your questions about processes answered, and make sure that you're able to take everything that is college. That means waking up on time, making a schedule, keeping things going. How do I if you ask yourself, how do I contact a professor? What's the right way to do that? I've never written an email. These are things that your coach can help you with. Also, taking large projects, breaking those projects down so that you're able to plan it out bit by bit. If I were to put it in a nutshell, I'd say the coach is there to help you make a plan and reset a plan as you move through your college semester. And this isn't just for students with disabilities. This is just for students with, well, any student that goes to Rowan. So we really encourage you to come by and inquire about it. It's pretty easy to set up. Another thing that we have is we have the College Compass Summer Bridge Program. That is a group of usually about 20 to 25 students that come in a week before school starts, and you move on campus, you move into your residence early, and you spend a week with us so that you're able to get an idea of what it feels like to be at Rowan, to get an idea of where your classes are early, to meet all the important players. Like right now, you know Jessica and you've met John and you met me from Disability Resources, but we want you to know where the Dean of Students office is. We want you to meet the bursar, the registrar. We want you to know where tutoring is and the wellness center and all the different places that I haven't even mentioned. You have a chance to come here early and well, spend some time. The other thing is this: if we, for some reason, aren't able to do it in person, which we hope is not the case, but if that's the case, we're going to be able to offer these two services online in the fall. So we will be able to have a version of this, whether you're in person or whether you're online. The only thing I would add about College Campus is if it's in person, there is a small fee, but that's only to pay for the food that we're going to give you over that week. So if you have any trouble, you can talk to John or myself. We've been able to make it work for everybody, and we think it's a great opportunity. So sorry about that. The other couple things I wanted to talk about, which are really important, are the testing services and tutoring services. The testing center is located in the Academic Success Center suite. And this is where students with accommodations for testing go to take their test in a reduced distraction or more of a solitary place so that they can have their test, they can have their extra time, but also they run CLEP testing and placement testing out of the testing center. So this is a great resource. It's for students with disabilities, but it also has a lot of other services that run out of the testing center for the rest of campus. Tutoring services is one of the most important services on campus. And the biggest thing to tell you is, even though it's located in the suite of the Academic Success Center, tutoring services has nothing to do with disabilities. This is tutoring. This is open to every single Rowan student. And most students here at Rowan use it. So whether you're an A student or you're a student that's really struggling to make the grade, tutoring services is important. What we will do through Disability Resources is, if you're a student with disabilities and you have concerns regarding tutoring, we will help you set it up and we can talk to you about those concerns. And in certain cases, we can act as a liaison between yourself and the tutoring office to make sure that you're getting the services that you need. But I do want to, highlight the fact that tutoring services are not just for students with disabilities. This is a service also including the Writing Center that is for all Rowan students. To put a quick plug for the Writing Center, we have a dedicated center based on writing. So all the times when you have to do your research and write papers at a college level, if you have no experience doing it, that's great. We have a whole office dedicated to help you. They're located in the Campbell Library. They liaise with us. But again, this is open to every single student at Rowan University. And I hope you get the chance to use it because it's special. It's great. These are our contacts. And, this is John's information, my information, and the rest of the staff here at Rowan University's Academic Success Center. I do want to put a quick plug in for Laura Roberts-Lebeau. She is the testing coordinator, and you can reach out to her if you have any questions regarding testing accommodations. We will help you with this testing accommodations, but since you take the test at the testing center, we wanted you to have her direct information. With that, again, thank you for listening to me talk for the last 5 minutes, and I look forward to talking to each of you individually.
All right, so let's see what questions our students have today. It's been a little quiet so far. I'm sure you guys were just listening very intently to the presentation and didn't get a chance to write any questions in. So definitely take advantage again if this is your time to really ask the questions that you guys are interested in hearing. We did have a couple questions yesterday, Lee and John, that came up during a conversation with our Dean of Students. So Nick and Reyes, who are participating in today, you may remember this question, but we had a few students really asking about that transition between high school and college. And we know that can be really, really overwhelming for students. And you provide so many great resources, but do you have any, I would say, tips or words of advice or just ways for students to really best navigate their first year on campus here at Rowan?
Want to go first, John?
Yeah, I'll start off, Lee, and you can add if there's any. So I would strongly suggest, whether a student has a disability or not, is to know that it's okay to ask for help, that it's okay to stop by offices, know that that there are resources that all the different departments want to help students access, but we can't read a student's mind, so it's okay to ask for help and to know that you're not alone. The transition to college, we do realize that parents are still involved. That's a good thing, but we want to help through the coaching program to help students learn to start to advocate for themselves, and to know that if a summer program is for you, or a summer bridge program, it's a great way to jumpstart your transition to college.
I'd like to add a couple things. When you come to college, you don't know what it's like here. You're coming into a brand new environment, and a lot of the lingo is different. Like, for instance, I have attention deficit disorder myself. I've had it, and I was diagnosed in 2nd grade. And when I went to college, way back in the 90s, I not only was I new at school, but I didn't have the resources, and I didn't know what questions to ask. I was lucky enough that I found staff members and faculty that would guide me, and I listened to them. And, the biggest thing is, if you don't know what question to ask, you got a lot of digging you got to do. I would tell you to start with our office. I would tell you that our office is that place that if you don't go anywhere else, I hope you go other places, but if you don't go anywhere else, come into our office and have a conversation with us. The least you'll get is a lot of information, and then understand it's up to you. You make the decisions. You don't have to take everyone's advice, but you should gather all the information. And that way you're able to make the best choice you can with that information. And that's really the first step. You don't have to be the best advocate in the world. You can be nervous, you can be scared, you can not like that you had accommodations in high school and you don't want to be forced into anything. Here's the good news. Whatever you do or don't set up, no one's going to force you into anything. The only thing I can actually do is give you information and then ask your permission to help you take those next steps. So whether you come in day one, which I hope you do, you should, that is really the plug. But if you run into trouble and it's halfway through the semester, pop in our door. No one's going to give you a lecture. The only thing we're going to do is give you information and try to help you out.
Great. So we had a question from Douglas, and he asked about the different types of majors that we have at Rowan. So we actually have close to 100 different academic programs at Rowan. So easiest way to figure out what they all are is probably go on our website. You'll see lists of different majors. You can actually even on our admissions webpage kind of play with like a little academic program quiz, see what you're interested in and what majors pop up for you based on what your interests are. But I do know a lot of students, especially incoming students, there's a lot of pressure on you guys to choose a major right now. Most people, when they ask you, the first question is, where are you going to college? And that second follow-up question always is, and what's your major? And for a lot of students, you guys may not know. I know when I was in high school, I had a really clear idea of what I wanted to do. And then by the time I got to college many years ago, I changed my mind almost immediately once I got in the classroom. And I ended up changing my major about 3 times throughout my college career. So that's totally normal. I know our Academic Success Center doesn't necessarily work with academic advising, who would really guide you in your curriculum and major choice. But Lee and John, do you want to chime in at all on how students who really aren't sure of their majors or are looking to find a major may utilize some of the services in your office?
Yeah, so a couple of things. One, we aren't your academic advisors. So I won't be able to sign you into a class or, help you make your schedule. But there are a couple things we can do. If you come in to meet with John or I, for one thing, we work right across the hall, literally, from academic advising. And there's a lot of times that we can sit there and help you figure out who your advisor is, for instance. Something else is, if you're nervous about having that meeting with your advisor and you'd like one of us to sit in on that meeting, we're happy to do so. Part of our job is to act as that liaison. It's to help give you, look, everyone that comes to college, the idea is to launch, but you have to build skill sets. And if you came into college knowing everything and knowing what to do and where to go, there wouldn't be much of a point to go to college. We know that you need to come here, you need to get your grades. That's set, that's expected. But everything else is you learning how to navigate, you learning how to take the information you get and make the best decision. That's where we can come in. I can also tell you that in certain things, like there is a requirement for a speech course. You have to pass public speaking. I teach a reticent course. And again, this has to go through the advisor, but I teach a course for students who are terrified of public speaking, who have trouble with public speaking. Some of our students that have such anxiety when it comes to public speaking that they will have a physical reaction. We have students that literally run out of the room. That can be embarrassing. That can be scary. I can tell you this. If you talk to us early and that's one of your concerns, public speaking, we will help you. We won't pass it for you, but we will make sure you are in the best possible position to do well. Hey, you may even end up with me as your professor, which, then I feel bad for you. But truthfully, it's a pleasure to teach, and the students that I teach, I love that part of the job. But in short, yes, we can help you with academic advising by making sure that you're getting to the right place, and then giving you advice or letting you kind of talk out your concerns after you've received the appropriate advice from the people who know about academic advising, which would be our academic advisors. There, that's a long-winded answer. That should help, hopefully.
I did want to mention one other resource. The Office of Career Advancement has an assessment tool for majors and careers called Focus 2, and that's a wonderful resource that a student can go down there, make an appointment, and that it gives a student that maybe starts off undecided with their major just a lot to think about. And we're fortunate that with our Summer Bridge program, that the students take that Focus 2 like 1 week before school starts, but that's a wonderful resource. I have to apologize, my landscaper's here too. It's raining, my landscaper's here, so there's noise in the background.
It's okay. Amazon just pulled up to my house for probably the 10th time today.
Okay.
And my dog is barking in the background as
Yeah.
an Amazon driver.
Yeah.
So we apologize. We had a question. I'll take it because it's admissions related, just about test optional and about placement testing. So in terms of admission for any incoming students, I know we have a bunch of accepted students on the call who are probably experts at this. You guys just went through it. But for students who are not seniors, or you are a senior and you're still looking at applying, we are test optional for admission. And Rowan made that change a few years ago because we know that not all students are great test takers, and there's a lot of research out there that shows that your standardized test scores, so the SAT or the ACT, are not the best indicator of how successful you'll be when you get to college. And I think all of us can agree that a standardized test is not the best way to predict your success in the future. So as a result of that, we did move to test optional a few years ago. As of right now, the requirement to be eligible for test optional for most of our programs is a 3.5 GPA. There have been some concerns from incoming students about standardized test dates being canceled as a result of the current situation. So if that continues, if we are seeing that students are really unable to take tests going into their senior year, I would imagine that we will relax some of those test optional requirements as well. But stay tuned, stay in touch with us. It's something that we are actively looking into and well aware of that you guys are not able to take tests. In terms of placement testing, depending on your SAT scores and your major, you may have to take a placement test coming in as an incoming student to Rowan. We do have another virtual session that I'll quickly plug. Our testing center will be doing a session on May 13th at 1 o'clock. So if you are an admitted student, this is a great time to come on, talk to Lara in our testing center, and really get your questions answered. There are a lot of specifics about testing. You can also always reach out to testingservices@rowan.edu for specific questions about your own academic profile and if you have to take placement tests or not. All right, so hopefully Douglas answered your question and hopefully benefited someone else in the room today. So we have a question, which I think is a fantastic question, and this may relate a bit more to the Wellness Center, but at Rowan, all of our offices really collaborate very well together. So we have a student asking about mental health counseling, and we know how important this is right now for our students, and our Wellness Center will also be doing a virtual session later on this month. I'm not going to plug the time because I think they're actually going to switch it. I just got an email about 5 minutes ago that they have to change their time. But if you guys want to talk a bit about some of those services we have for students, I know, again, that falls a bit outside of Academic Success Center, but what other opportunities students could take advantage of for mental health?
Sure, definitely. We work very closely with the Wellness Center counselors, Healthy Campus Initiatives. We actually hold our Summer Bridge program at their location. Any student attending college, if you've had counseling in the past and you're continuing, I would recommend going to the counseling center like the first couple weeks of school, and then you would just log in at the kiosk and then you would meet with the counselor. So that way you're in the rotation. The individual counselors once every 2 weeks. There's group counseling. There's many different group counseling. There's topics like anxiety, runs runs the gamut really, and there's a lot of workshops they do. What we do too, it's been a wonderful resource if we're like working with a student with academic coaching and they're really stressed out, they're in crisis, whether it has to do with something happening at home, a relationship, roommates. We will walk them over to the wellness center, and then they will meet with the students right away. We also have a lot of students registered with us that are on the autism spectrum. We do a lot of work with the counseling center. And the last thing that I mentioned on this topic, you should know that of the 2,400 students registered with us, 2/3 have hidden disabilities. And over the past 2 years, the #1 disability medical condition listed when someone's registered with us is depression and anxiety. So we want students, parents to know that it's okay to ask for help, to know that depression and anxiety is something that is covered where the student would be eligible for resources. We're actually switching the name of our office from Disability Resources to Accessibility Services so that we can help decrease the stigma around mental health.
Can I add in? I definitely want to say this. Look, disability is a legal term. It is something that is defined in the ADA, which is the Americans with Disability Act, and it is a label. And for some people, no big deal. Yeah, I have a disability. Look, I have attention deficit disorder, like I said, and I also have generalized anxiety disorder. And I'm not saying that so that I can like wave the flag and say hi, but I want to let you know that it's understood. In our office, it's understood. You don't have to identify with, you come in, you have a diagnosis. We don't have to constantly talk to you about your diagnosis. We do give you accommodation letters, and these letters you give to your faculty, but those letters don't give your diagnosis. They don't give your diagnosis at all. They give your name, they let them know that you're registered with our office, and they list your accommodations. But you're the one who's going to hold that information. You don't ever have to tell any faculty staff member that you have a disability or what that is. When you give these accommodation letters to your professors, that's it. And then you can defer to John and myself if there's a need for us to elaborate. We have conversations with faculty all the time that go something like, a student has extra time. The faculty member says, why is it that you have extra time? This doesn't happen often. It's very rare. But in that case, maybe the student feels like, I don't want to answer why. It's on the letter. So we tell you to refer them to us. The faculty member calls up and I'll answer, or John will answer, and they'll say, I wanted to know why this student gets this accommodation. And we'll say, well, when there's an impact for any student that receives this accommodation, we talk about the impact. We don't talk about that John or Jane Doe has depression or anxiety, because frankly, it's none of their business. You tell us it's confidential. The other thing I want to let you know is that, something beyond accommodation is that, we give these letters because the students need to have those conversations with faculty as far as introducing themselves, getting to know your faculty, knowing that you can use the faculty as a resource. None of it has to be with specifics, but letting them know who you are. A lot of times students have conflicts with faculty because they're individuals. Part of the nuance of college is you could take the same course with 5 different professors and have 5 different experiences. A lot of it's communication. A lot of it's how you interpret things. It's verbal and nonverbal communication. But in the rare time that it actually becomes something where you feel really uncomfortable with, you can use us as a buffer. We will set up a meeting where it is you, John or myself, or John and myself in some cases, and the faculty member. And you don't need to have those conversations by yourself if you don't want to. You can come into our office, and if you want to have the conversation on your own, role play it. We can talk about it for a while until you're comfortable with making that next step. Or you can have that meeting with one of us there and the faculty member so that you can game plan before. Believe me, John and I will tell you when there's things you need to worry about. And it's our job is to advocate for you and the institution. But we don't give a grade, and we don't write your faculty members' evaluation. So our job is simply to be there as a buffer for you. Parents, this to you, faculty members don't generally talk to parents. That's frustrating because up to this point, you've been the advocate for your student, and we understand that. We want to partner with you. What you can do anytime you want is call John or I. Even if FERPA, which I'm sure you're going to hear 1,000 times, so I'm not going to define it, but we know that's the term that says that we can't tell you anything. I can listen to anything you want to tell me. And I assure you, what I will do is, if you need to talk to your student, I will call your student and say, your mom or dad called. Let's call your parents from our office. As long as your student's okay with it and they're present, we can have a full conversation. But John and I will work with you and partner with you, but we're always going to put the student first because the student's the student. They're an adult. But that doesn't mean leaving you in a vacuum. So, again, sorry to be long-winded, but I wanted to push that point.
We had a follow-up question to that too from Marina, and she asked if you're comfortable with faculty knowing about your disability or why you have an accommodation, can you have that included in your letter? I would say too, I mean, I teach a class here at Rowan just like Lee does, and we have great relationships with students, and I think that's the benefit of coming to Rowan is that you have small classes, you get to know faculty, and you really do get to know staff on campus. I think from my perspective, I'm happy if a student feels comfortable sharing, but know that you don't have to. So Lee or John, if you want to answer that as well.
Yes, I'll start. So, yeah, we let the student drive the process. I'll use, so some students, they can articulate what they need, what they don't need, even when they have an accommodation letter. So we leave it up to the student. Some students on the spectrum, the autism spectrum, the students and their parents want us to let the professor know, so that way they understand that if they're, again, if their demeanor is a little bit different or they're asking curious questions, whatever it is. So we will do whatever the student wants us to do, or the student and the parent for like a new student, but it's really, you know, there's a line in this field that access doesn't guarantee success, but what Lee and I want to do is to put all students on that platform for success, both in and outside the classroom. So that way, like whatever a student wants to do, like we've got one student that's blind who we email their letter to them leading up to the semester, and they want to send an email to their professor with the letter and to introduce themselves. You know, like I'm a blind student, here's how I learn best. Other students, whether it's with ADHD, students with auditory processing, I think it's important for them to have that conversation with the professor if they want to let them know. You know, it's no different than if it's a non-traditional student that might want to let the professor know something about them, or that might help them understand that, look, if you email me, I may not be able to like respond right away, or, you know, so again, it's letting the person drive the process and to know that they have a support team that'll help them.
I concur.
Great. So this question didn't come through, but I think it's important to note, or at least reiterate, how different high school versus college can be. And if a student did want to utilize any accommodations or resources in their office, we always encourage students to really advocate for themselves. So can you share how an incoming student would identify with your office and what that process would be?
So essentially, when you get to college, you're covered under a new law. You're covered under the ADA, which is the Americans with Disability Act. And what it says is that, you know, the term we've used is the student drives the process. It means you have to declare who you are. You have to actually come into our office and talk to us to let us know that there's a need. And then we go through the process where you will fill out a registration form. It's pretty simple. And you provide documentation. So that might be a copy of your 504, your IEP from high school. For some people, they just got a diagnosis. There's no history of accommodation. So you would come in and you would provide the documentation we asked for. In some cases, it's a doctor's note. In some cases, it's medical records. But regardless of it, it's a pretty seamless process, and there's really not a situation where we can't help you. So what will happen is you provide us the documentation. We produce the letter. The student then is given the letter, and they go to their faculty member. And, you know, a lot of our students, what we'll do is we'll give them a physical copy and an electronic copy. And a lot of students will send an email before class with an attachment, before class even starts, introducing themselves. Like, for instance, when I was taking a PhD course here, what I did is I emailed my faculty member, even at age 42, I introduced myself. I let them know that I was receiving accommodations through, awkwardly enough, my own office, and essentially let them know that here's my letter and I'd like to talk to them on the first day of class or at this, earliest office hours available. My faculty member got back to me, "Hi, Lee, welcome to class, and I'd love to talk to you. And whenever you'd like to talk to me, I'm available." And that way, when I went in to make my initial in-person, introductions, it wasn't awkward for me, handing them a letter and saying, "Hi, I'm Lee Plen, and I needed to give you this letter." There's other students who, quite frankly, have no problem with it, and all the power to them. That's fine. You go to class the first day, and you get there a little earlier, you stay a little after, and you give your professor the letter. You say, "Hi, my name is," and here's the letter. You can also do it over during their office hours, and in some cases, students are not comfortable doing it, and we understand that. So you can talk to John or I, and we can help facilitate that, whether that's an introductory letter from us that includes you, whether we set up a meeting prior. With things that are happening now, we have a lot of online classes, so we give online accommodation letters, which are digital PDF letters with accommodations. And a lot of them, because of the nature of the class, require that the student really have a conversation with the professor, because email is not that effective because of the way that particular student may communicate. So we're setting up Zoom and WebEx meetings, much as like the webinar we're doing right now, where instead of Jessica, John, and myself, it would be your professor, you, and myself, or John, having the conversation just to kind of go over things. And you would talk to John or I prior to that meeting so that we know what you want to share and what you don't want to share. So the way that introduction's made can vary. And really what it comes down to is you talking to us and communicating where you're at that moment. We don't need to tell you what you need to do. You tell us where you're at, and we will help you decide the best way to make that communication at any point. So again, this conversation could be the summer before your freshman year. This conversation can be in the middle of a semester if you decide that's the point you need this. I know a lot of you out there are undecided. I hope that you come to Rowan. I think it would be really great. I think we'd love to have you. But what I would say is any advice you're getting in this session, and John and I say this all the time, wherever you go, find a version of our office and do these things to help yourself. Now, of course, I'm going to plug Rowan because we're in a Rowan webinar. I want you to come here, but it's important that you learn where the resources are that help you, and that's how you'll be successful.
So Douglas had asked a really good question a while ago that I wanted to circle back to, and kind of like a housekeeping question, but Douglas asked if classes start early, like 7:30 in the morning, or if it has to be later. And for high school students coming to college, that day-to-day is so different than what you guys are used to in high school. So I know high school students, you guys are probably used to getting up and being in school to start at 7:30 in the morning. You guys probably are in class back-to-back all day until about 2:30. Some of you may have jobs or extracurriculars or athletics after school. You may be doing homework till late, and you're used to your day being really, really full. In college, it's a lot different than that. You have typically about 5 classes a semester. We recommend about 15 credits on average for a full-time student. That equals about 5 courses. You don't have to worry about knowing all these specifics right now, but potentially how your schedule is set up leaves you with a lot of free time. So you may have one class that's only offered once a week for 2.5 hours. And you need to really use your time management skills and your study skills to work around that free time and make sure that you're studying or you're going to the library or you're not waiting till the last second like a lot of our students do to write a paper. I know Lee and John, we talked a bit about academic coaching earlier. So for really any student, again, I can see a benefit from using that service. Or Reyes had also asked about academic coaching and what type of things that they can help you do. So if you could expand a bit on that and really how that could, again, help a student transition from high school to college.
Yes, definitely. That's a great question. Yeah, all students with without disabilities, when they start college, they do have that wake-up call that you've got all this free time, you think, but you don't, because if you don't stay on top of things. So academic coaching can help students, whether their need is organizational skills, managing time, having a schedule, a planner. So the students involved with coaching with us, the first meeting, the coach reaches out to the student, like in an email, they introduce themselves, and they ask them to bring to the first coaching session their syllabi and a planner, and then the coach will sit with the student to put in the planner. When they have tests coming up with each class, papers due, that kind of stuff. And then those weekly meetings, they will build on one another. Like, how are you doing with this paper that's due in 2 weeks? Have you visited the writing center with your draft? You know, so it's kind of, and many students, I would say, that are in high school without disabilities had someone that they were looking to, whether a teacher, a parent, that helped to keep them on track, to help keep them accountable. And so I joke with students, when you start college, you're in the big leagues. Your professors won't remind you that something's due, like if it's in the syllabus. Some students with disabilities, part of their accommodations in high school, that the professor, the teacher, was required to remind them of things. That doesn't happen in college. You're in the big league. So the coaching meets a student where they are. And the student needs to utilize the resource. It's a weekly commitment, like a class, but the students that are involved with coaching have those resources that they need week to week, so they're not blindsided by not managing their time and having that. I did want to mention too that students registered with us, like at Classroom Accommodations, have early registration for classes. That means every semester, when students register for classes for the next semester, they can register the very first day. So that's huge for a student who maybe is not a morning person, or a student who maybe takes medication for ADHD or for anxiety, where they know that they don't function the best after, like, an afternoon class. So they can pick the classes that best, like, fit not just their learning style, but their lifestyle.
So I'm going to add into that. We want you to use coaching because it will help you. But a lot of students don't use coaching because it's, not everything's a perfect fit for everybody. But with regard to earlier classes, keep yourself on a schedule. If you're used to getting up at 6:30 now for high school, whether that's challenging or not, I don't know that you necessarily need to wake up at 6:30, but keep, rise up when the sun comes up. Make that your routine. Think of college as a job. A job traditionally is 40 hours a week. The difference with this job is it's not going to be block scheduling the way that high school is. And I think, that both Jessica and John, pointed that out. But what's important to do is it's how you manage that 40 hours. So if you're spending 15 hours a week in class, that leaves 25 other hours that you would normally have at a 9-to-5 job. So think about what that is. That's studying, but how are you studying? If you take an hour a week and you meet with an academic coach to organize how you use the rest of that time, I guarantee most weeks you won't use 40 hours. Now, there will be weeks where you'll put more time in, but if you're using your time, because you can't control time, you can only manage time to a certain point, you're going to learn. It's kind of like a game of Tetris, but you're going to learn how to manage yourself and when you work best. So if you're someone who does most of their work while the sun's out before 5 o'clock, then you'll learn to use those resources during the day. If you're someone who needs to study after you've eaten dinner, then you'll learn to, create your schedule that way. What coaching does, though, is it gives you a chance to build a rhythm, and it gives you a chance to revisit that every week. So what's working, you keep. What's not working, you adjust. Something else I would say is figure out what kind of person you are. If you're someone who writes things down in a journal or keeps an assignment book or keeps a date book and writing it down is what works for you, stick to it. If you're someone that likes to use your iPhone or your Android and that's how you work, and then use Google Calendar or whichever app that you use, but make sure it's connected to your laptop or your tablet so that you can put all your information in one place. What you don't want to do is have stuff on your phone, have stuff on your computer, and have stuff written down on different calendars, because sooner or later you're not going to keep all. You don't want to make that chore too big. So pick one that works for you really well and make that your go-to. I personally use my iPhone. I like to keep stuff in my Google Calendar, and I set alarms so that I know when things are due. And, basically, I let technology do the work for me. I hear a ring. I investigate the ring. The ring says, hey, you have a presentation today at 2 o'clock, and look, here I am.
So somebody had asked, and just to reiterate, that these services are open for all students. And again, we highly recommend students to take advantage of them. We're not going to force anything upon you, but taking advantage of these resources will benefit really anybody, I would say. So again, these are open for all students. I do want to be mindful of time. We're a little past our 45-minute mark. Justin had asked what classes we teach, so I thought we could quickly answer that. I have taught a course called Rowan 101 College Success, and this is a freshman seminar course that all incoming students will have to take either as a standalone course, or the content of that course could be embedded in another one of your classes that is deemed a Rowan seminar course. So really the idea of that class is to help incoming students be successful when they get to college. So a lot of the things we're talking about today we'll also talk about in that course, like time management, living on a budget, being away from home for the first time, what does diversity mean for you, and how are you adjusting to a different environment when you're in college. So again, just another great resource to help students become adjusted and be successful once they get to campus. So I've actually taught that course, I think, 8 or 9 times at this point, which is making me feel old, but it's a fantastic course, and hopefully you guys will get to take advantage of.
I've actually taught the same course. I taught Rowan 101. I've also taught speech, and I've taught the reticent speech course. So during my time at Rowan, those are the 3 courses I've taught. I like to teach. It's one of my favorite things. It's not a side gig. It's actually the kind of piece that ties together basically the work I do. I like to see it work from both ends, and it's a great joy. And I look forward to maybe having 1 or 2 of you in one of my classes.
All right, so as we wrap up today, I did want to thank all of our students again for taking your time and coming to learn about our Academic Success Center here at Rowan. So before we sign off, I would like our presenters to give a piece of advice to our students, especially our incoming students, and then maybe share something that they find really special about Rowan.
I'll start. I'll share something that I talk with parents and students about at the orientation. This is a cautionary tale. I'll be real quick with it. Every year I meet students and parents where the student's reluctant to register for disability resources in college, even though they've had those accommodations in high school. And usually the reason is that they want to just start anew, stay on the radar. And I can understand that, like as someone with a disability, like you notice that I stutter sometimes. I totally understand someone wanting to go into a new environment and to start anew, but the students that do that, they risk a successful transition to college because they're abandoning the accommodations that in most cases got them to this point in college. So, and the students that don't register if they need the resources, sometimes they risk losing a scholarship just because they have a rocky transition to college. So it's okay to ask for help. Know that we keep it confidential, and definitely do your research as to what school is the best fit for you. Thanks, Jesse.
Piece of advice that I'd give you is this. Accommodations are tools. That's simple. That's all they are. They're not a free ride. They're not going to make it all easier. In fact, a lot of times you're going to work harder because it takes that. Because, I know for me with ADD, a lot of times I have to read things more than once. It takes me longer to get through books. But, again, it's important to use the right tool for the right job. So with all the options you may have, you have to take a look and decide which accommodation helps you the best. So again, to make the analogy, it's a tool. It's not a mark. It's just something that you can use, because even when you want to do something on your own, you have to be able to use resources. And resources at their base are tools. Something that I'd like to share that I like about Rowan is the people you talk to are the people you're looking at. Every single person I've talked to at Rowan that works in student affairs, faculty, academic affairs, they're here because they want to be. This is not just your local state college. This is a Research One institution. These are people that want you to succeed. So don't be afraid to talk to us. Don't be afraid to ask questions. And definitely don't be afraid to walk in my office or our office and say, I don't know what question to ask, because then we'll ask you questions, and we'll come to the questions you have to ask. I hope it doesn't sound like a riddle, but the truth is, this is a wonderful place to be. This place is home to me. In the last 4 years, it has become that. I mean it. I breathe it. I eat it. It's the truth. So I hope you get the same experience, and I look forward to seeing you on campus.
Great. Thank you so much, John and Lee. I really appreciate you taking the time to share all this great information with our students today. And again, thank you to our students for sharing your time with us this afternoon. And congratulations again to our accepted students. We can't wait to see you on campus this fall. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon and have a wonderful weekend. And hopefully we'll see you at some more of our virtual events throughout the month of May. Thanks so much again, guys. Have a great weekend.
Take care.
Bye.